It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
On this edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast, we take a deep dive into the Ravens versus Vikings game and the Bears versus Steelers matchup, along with the hurry-up offense and what to look out for next week. All coming your way next. You're listening to the Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Shout out Q. Shout out Q.
Indeed, I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Coming to you from the Trumbull Insurance Agency virtual studio. Turn your stress and anxiety into peace and security with Trumbull Insurance. Contact Patrick Bankemper for all your insurance needs. 540-532-0622 or drop him an email, patrick@trumbleagency.com. Big thanks to the rest of our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. This is another edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. A little bit different this week. Dan was not able to make it on. So with me is the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. Carlos, how are you, sir?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
You know, it was a brutal week for me, but a weekend, but yeah.
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 I'm sure we'll get into that in the hurry up offense, but yeah, what an interesting week of NFL football. Stress-free for me, obviously, because the Washington football team did not play, but still a lot of interesting matchups, a lot of confusing matchups. So we have two games we'll talk about in depth. Then we'll go to the hurry-up offense and what to look out for. Next week, a nice short show. Once again, Dan could not make it. We wish him all the best dealing with what he has going on right now. So let's get into it. Dan's Baltimore Ravens over the Minnesota Vikings 34-31 in overtime. I'm sure Dan would have a lot to say about this game, unfortunately.
That's why I wanted to cover this game, because I wanted to hear Dan's thoughts, because Dan went through a lot on this through this journey in this game.
Apparently at 2:19 p.m. on Twitter, Dan declared this game over, and I was
in favor of the Vikings. In favor of the Vikings.
In favor of the Vikings. There's the key word there, Carlos. The Vikings. Because they can't win a game. I think they're allergic to winning at this point. I don't know what the heck the situation is for Minnesota. They come out with this massive lead, and it looks like they're going to come into Baltimore and upset them. But no, it's Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I mean, you don't get paid 82 whatever million to blow games. You have to finish them. And that's not what I saw. And the Ravens came back, ended up going to overtime, and the Ravens took the ball and scored. I mean, obviously that overtime interception, that was not good. And I thought that was going to seal the game for Baltimore. And I was like, we can't speak to Dan, because you know how Dan is when it comes to Baltimore Ravens football. But then Vikings had to punt it away, and Justin Tucker, the golden leg, comes in and seals the deal. But I mean, the main concern out of this game for me, Carlos, is the fact of the matter is the Vikings. I don't know what's wrong with them. They just cannot finish a game. They've been in so many close games this year, and they always come out on the losing side.
Yeah, no, we know what's wrong with the Vikings. It's Kirk Cousins. It's Mike Zimmer. I don't think Mike Zimmer comes back next season. I think his time in Minnesota is nigh. I think he's on his way out. And Yeah, this has been Kirk Cousins' MO. He gets all his stats in garbage time, but he never actually wins the big games. I mean, you have, you come out first play of the second half, kickoff return for a touchdown. You have, multiple good plays going in your favor, and then you just can't finish. I mean, and they almost lost the game in regulation, obviously, and then he finally picks it up and leads them down the field and scores a touchdown. I mean, they scored a touchdown at the start of the first half or the second half, and at the end of the second half, because then Adam Thielen touchdown to tie it back up at 31. Kirk Cousins just isn't a good quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback, but he's not going to be the quarterback that's going to win you the big game. And we've seen that time and time again. Hell, they couldn't even beat the Cowboys last week, with, Cooper Rush at the helm. And this is the Vikings as a whole. They couldn't do that. And I knew I had a feeling like Lamar Jackson was not, he if Cooper Rush could do it, Lamar Jackson could do it. And I was almost proven wrong, but Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level, carrying this Baltimore Ravens offense, and with all the injuries that they have on IR, the fact that the Ravens are 6-2 and, leading the division is insane. And that's a testament to how valuable Lamar Jackson is to this team. But back to the Vikings, I mean, they've been in close game after close game after close game, and they keep losing these games. And it's like, what's the point of paying Kirk Cousins all this money if he can't win these games that you're supposed to win? And it's just, I think it's going to be, it's damn near time for the Vikings to start considering whether this, is worth continuing going on, because they're clearly not getting anywhere.
I'll go out to say this, Carlos. I think Mike Zimmer might be the first coach fired if he's not fired in season.
I don't know if he's going to be fired in season. I don't think they'll fire him in season. But because ultimately they're 3-5 and they're still in the playoff race, right?
Yeah.
Because of how top heavy the NFC is, they're not really they're still in play for a wild card spot. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're going to make a change anytime soon. I really believe they're going to do this in the off season when, when they don't make the playoffs. Mike Zimmer is going to be out because it's clear he doesn't have the team anymore. And then I think Kirk Cousins will be next to go because it's clear that he's not your guy. What has he produced? A couple playoff wins. That's it.
One with the Minnesota Vikings, from what I recall.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, what has he really done since joining the Vikings? They brought him in to try and win a Super Bowl, and they haven't been able to do that. Mm-hmm. And they have all this talent around. You got two top wide receivers in the league, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. You have Dalvin Cook in your backfield. You have a pretty decent defense. And for some reason, this team just isn't clicking, especially in these close games. And, of course, we have to give a shout-out to the GOAT, Justin Tucker, of kickers. He's just so reliable. I mean, you saw where they needed to reach to get into field goal range. It was like damn near the 50. That's all they needed to get to. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this game just really again solidifies why I truly don't think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback and why I don't think he should be paid the way he's paid.
Yeah, absolutely. If the Vikings think that they're going to extend his contract and pay him the amount of money he thinks he's worth, then they're out of their minds, because Kirk Cousins, it's proven he's not worth that much. And I mean, I'm so glad looking back that Washington cut ties with him. I mean, obviously it's still not a good situation, but still, if Kirk Cousins was in Washington, I think their situation would be even worse. But I'm not saying it's not worse now, but
I don't know if it'd be worse. I actually think you guys would be in a better spot, but I'm not saying you guys would be necessarily competing for, because at least Kirk Cousins is way better than any quarterback you have now. So I bash a lot on Kirk Cousins, right? I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I don't think he should be paid the way he's paid. Yeah. But ultimately, he's at least within the top 20 of quarterbacks, and he's a lot better than what you guys have now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he could definitely run the offense that you guys are running a lot better. But ultimately, I just don't think he's a championship caliber quarterback. I don't think he's going to win you the big game. So I don't think he should be paid as a quarterback that's going to do that.
Yeah, I feel like we say this each and every week, that every time the Vikings blow a lead and end up losing, that it's Kirk. And Yeah, I mean, I've heard from like on social media and stuff, I've heard different places about like people defending Kirk Cousins. I mean, at this point against the Ravens, I mean, seriously, you had that big lead and you just blow it. I mean, good coaching. And I'm going to blame some of the coaches on this too. Good
100%.
coaching. You find a way to keep that lead so Baltimore doesn't come back. A team like Baltimore with an elite quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who has been known this season for making comeback drives and coming down winning the game. And Justin Tucker, obviously, you saw it in Detroit too, that massive field goal off the crossbar for the win. I mean, good coaching. You find a way to identify what you have to do to prevent Baltimore from taking the lead in winning the game. And I mean, it's not just Kirk Cousins. I think it's the coaching staff. I'm not sure if Mike Zimmer calls the plays, but it's a big mess.
Well, he doesn't. No. So it's Gary Kubiak's son, I believe, is the new offensive coordinator. Because Gary Kubiak obviously retired last season, and he's just very conservative. Like if I remember correctly, it's Gary Kubiak's son. Check me on that. I'm not 100% certain. I'm pretty sure it's Kubiak's son. He's the offensive coordinator, and I just feel like he's just very conservative with his play calls. If it's not, we'll cut this out of the show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was with the Vikings. I wouldn't be surprised, but Gary Kubiak, I mean, obviously.
Kubiak retired last season, so yeah, it hits his son that's running the offense now. They passed it down, and he's just not necessary. I feel like what the Vikings did on Sunday was
Clint Kubiak.
Yeah. I feel like they basically took their foot off the gas, right? Like had they kept going, that's the thing. They played not, to not lose, basically.
And you can't do that against this Baltimore team.
Well, you can't do that against any team in the NFL. You have to keep playing to win. You can't play to prevent, to prevent a comeback, because that comeback's going to happen. You have to keep your foot on the gas. Like you can't let up. And the Vikings, I felt like let up because they felt comfortable. They were like, oh, we have a 2-touchdown lead. And of course, before this season, Lamar Jackson was known to not make these types of comebacks, but all throughout this season, he's been making these comebacks. So this whole narrative of Lamar Jackson can't make a comeback if you get him down by 14 is now a lie, because we saw him do it against the Chiefs. We've seen him do it time and then we saw him just do it now, and we've seen him do it pretty much all season. So, the Vikings, I think the Vikings just pretty much, like I said, let their foot off the gas and let the Ravens get back into it.
Yeah. I mean, but besides all the issues in Minnesota, I mean, it was just a very entertaining game to watch. I mean, another overtime game. How many overtime games have we seen this year? Because it's been well a lot. Way too many.
Like I said, I feel like this season might go down as one of the best NFL seasons, just because of how competitive it's been, and B, how many great games have been on, especially in prime time. Like it pretty much feels like every game has been amazing. With a few exceptions here and there, obviously, but I don't know. It feels like we've had a lot of games so far go to OT or come down to the last couple drives.
Yeah, I mean, it was a remarkable game. So once again, Baltimore 34 in the Minnesota Vikings 31. We will take a quick break, and when we return, we will talk about the Bears and the Steelers on Monday Night Football. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you about Regroup Building Services. If you're looking to get your home remodeled, any part of your home, bathroom, kitchen, want to get a deck built, anything like that, Regroup Building Services can just about do everything. And take it from me, because they came in and they remodeled my family's kitchen, and they do a great job. So if you're looking for any sort of home remodeling needs, deck work done, anything of that nature, reach out to my guy Sean Hibbard over at Regroup Building Services today. You can check them out on their website, www.regroupbuildingservices.com, where they do the honeydews that your honey don't. Make sure you tell them Josh sent you. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. All right, welcome back. I'm Josh, joined by the Swiss Army knife, Carlos Martinez. Dan, unfortunately, not able to be here on this week's edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast. The next game we will get into, Carlos, and I will admit I went to bed at halftime, but what I saw, it was the Steelers 29, the Bears 27. And what I saw from this game, yes, Justin Fields, he did get pressured some, but he looked a lot better this week. And I mean, I'm not saying he did like enough to, there's still a lot of stuff that the Bears and the offense need to work on, but Justin Fields looked pretty darn good. I feel like, in my opinion, watching that first half, Carlos, just watching Justin Fields and how he was throwing it looked pretty darn good, and he looked comfortable. Obviously, their O-line is still concerned. He got sacked 3 times in that game, but still, nonetheless, I mean, there was a little bright spot, in my opinion, for what could be the potential of what Justin Fields could be in this National Football League. Obviously, it's still early, but it was just a small glimpse, and I really liked his performance in this game.
Yeah, Justin Fields looked fantastic in this game, and he looked fantastic last week too. But obviously, these are all in losing efforts. That's the sad thing, and they did everything they could to win this game, despite all the dumb penalties that these referees were calling. It was an awfully called game. I mean, that taunting call was, I got to get on the Monday Night Football announcers. They're trying to sit there and try to be like, afterwards saying that like ultimately that taunting penalty wasn't consequential to the game. Well, it costed them 3 points. Because Pittsburgh's got a field goal on that. Had they not gotten the field goal, gotten the field goal off that taunting call, then Chicago wins this game because, obviously they won by only by 3, correct?
If I remember correctly. 29-27.
Or it would have been tied.
I thought it was crazy though, the way this game.
No, it wouldn't have been tied. I'm sorry. Chicago would have won by 1 point had they not gotten that field goal, and everything would have gone the way it went.
Yeah. So I thought it was crazy how the Bears tried a 65-yarder to win, because I saw the highlights. I mean, I woke up.
That was a stupid call, in my opinion. Also, I just would have gone for the Hail Mary at that point. Like, why are you trying to kick it? You don't have Justin Tucker. You're in Heinz Field. It's not a friendly, a friendly stadium for kickers.
Yeah.
And, and from the angle they showed it at, it looked like it hit the crossbar. But in reality, that thing came up way, way short. And it's just a horrible call from Matt Nagy. Like, just throw the Hail Mary. Like, give your team an actual shot. Don't try to kick a 65-yard field goal to try, and win the game. Like, you don't have one of those types of kickers.
Yeah, but I mean, I woke up the morning after the game and I watched the highlights and I was like, why did he come up so short? And I wasn't paying attention to anything else. And then I see the replay later on when I'm more awake and it's at 65 yards. I'm like, really? But I mean, besides the point, did you see the ref hip check there?
Yep. Yep.
What
That
was
wasn't
that?
so. According to the ref, that contributed nothing to why he called the taunting call. But I really don't understand why he hip checked. The Chicago player. I can't remember his name right now. It
Yeah,
kind of escapes me.
I mean, I tried looking at highlights. I don't understand what was taunting about that.
It was they interviewed the referee. I don't know if it was today, if it was yesterday. I can't remember when it was. And according to the referee, it was his posture, his mannerisms looking towards the bench. He thought it was taunting. I'm just like, the dude just made one of the biggest plays of his career against the team that just cut him. Like, it's an emotional, like, football is a very emotional game, and I'm hating all these dumb taunting calls, just because it's the point of emphasis. And even in this referee, even like mentioned that in this interview, that it was that, taunting is a point of emphasis this year. Like, shut up, just let the guys play. He made a big play. He didn't say anything. All he did was look over at the bench, walk over, like take a couple steps over there, didn't do anything. Like, taunting is like if you're in the guy's face, screaming at him, doing some gesture, something like that. But if you're just staring over there like this, and then running back, and then you hip check him, like, get the heck out of here. Like, you're like, these referees have been so inconsistent, especially, and it feels like every year we have some gripe with a call. And this year it's taunting because, at that point, again, Chicago had all the momentum at that point, and they had made the biggest defensive play. It was a coverage sack, sure, whatever you want to call it, because, at that point, Big Ben was holding the ball for like 6 seconds. He makes the sack, because, like, this was a team he was on. He was on the practice squad. He got cut, and then, ends up in Chicago, gets activated day of, and gets to play in this game, makes one of the biggest, most consequential plays of this game. Had this stood and they didn't call that taunting penalty, Pittsburgh punts it. They don't get those 3 extra points. And who knows what happens? This game is a lot different. What if Chicago comes down and scores? But because of the taunting call, it gives them a fresh set of downs, because it's a 15-yard penalty, fresh set of downs. And then all these, and then it just kind of falls apart for Chicago's defense. There's offside calls, or lining up in the neutral zone section, whatever, all that stuff. One of those the guy wasn't even lined up in the neutral zone. I don't know what the hell they were looking at. The guy was on sides. And then all these roughing the passer calls that they kept calling for on Big Ben, but they wouldn't call it on Justin Fields, even though there was blatant ones, low blocks. Just, it was a horribly officiated game. And honestly, this is I don't know what the NFL needs to chill out on this point of emphasis thing that for some reason the coaches were saying was a problem, even though it never was a problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I understand what the players are getting at, and I will say this: taunting is a big deal in my opinion, but I was looking, I was like,
I don't think, but how was it a big deal? Like, I never thought taunting was a big deal in the NFL prior to this. Like, what is considered taunting? That's the other thing. Because, like, okay, standing like that, like, how is that taunting? It's just, I don't know. It's stupid. Like, this whole thing is dumb. Like, these are grown-ass men. They can handle themselves. Like, I understand if it's something very blatant, like you're screaming at you guys are getting in each other's face. You're talking like saying the craziest stuff on the field, or like doing some weird gestures to players or something like that. That's taunting. But, like, some of these dumb taunting calls are not taunting. Oh, you looked over at the bench and you stood in a way. Like, shut up. Like, what are you doing? This is ruining the game. Once again, the NFL finds a way to step on their own toes.
Yeah, I mean, it was really bad. And going back to what you were saying about the roughing the passer calls, I did see a couple of them, and I'm like, you have to call an equal game. And it looked like they did not do that based on the players and the fans' reactions. And I'm like, wow. I can't say for a fact, like, oh, they're just calling it because it's Big Ben, but Justin Fields is brand new in this league. But there's got to be some sort of solution. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what that is, but it's just crazy to see some of those calls that were called on Monday night.
Yeah, it just what like I said, it just wasn't a good look. And once again, the NFL, it feels like for the third straight season, because this all started like it feels like everything started with the whole pass interference stuff that happened with New Orleans in the championship game, when the Rams like blatantly did a pass interference that wasn't called. Next season, they're like, oh, it's reviewable. Then no ref wanted to really do it, or they would never overturn the call. It just feels like it's just a constant battle with the NFL, trying to figure out what it is that they're doing. And I like, we just want consistent reffing. That's all we want. Like, this is the call. This is what qualifies for the call. It shouldn't be necessarily open for interpretation like this. Like, this is bad.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. I want to go back to the game though. I mean, Pittsburgh at 5-3. I mean, they've won some games, but I mean, keeping it this close against Chicago, I still feel like Pittsburgh has a rocky season in front of them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, keeping it this close against the Bears, that concerned me a lot, Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously have an easy game this week with the Lions, because the Lions just aren't that good. But then they have then it starts to get tough. Then they get, the Chargers, who, obviously aren't necessarily playing at the same level that they did at the beginning of the season, but they're still a formidable team. You got the Bengals, who of course are on a little bit of a slide, but again, I still think they're a good team also, especially when you got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They'll always be in it. And even though they got shellacked by the Browns, Pittsburgh doesn't have the same firepower that the Browns have, I feel like, especially with Big Ben. And then you got Ravens, Vikings, Titans, Chiefs, Browns, Ravens. They don't have an easy stretch coming up. So I still think that they are not going to make the playoffs. I know Dan kind of thinks otherwise. Dan thinks that they're still in it, but I don't think they are. I think their resume is built off of, I mean, sure, they beat who have they beat? Who have they beat? They beat the Bills. They've beaten, they beat the Seahawks. They barely beat the Seahawks. They beat the Browns. They barely beat the Browns, and the Browns were injured. And then they barely beat the Bears. And am I leaving somebody out that I'm not seeing? Oh, the Broncos. And of course, the Broncos at that point were, on the slide. Of course, my team just lost to the Broncos and we got our asses kicked. But that's at the time, the Broncos weren't necessarily playing as well as they did against us. So, with all that being said, I don't think the Steelers are for real yet. They have a lot more to prove to me, especially with this long stretch of games coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's evident that there's no room for error for this Pittsburgh Steelers team because of the long stretch you just mentioned, Carlos. And if there are a few hiccups along the way, there's a pretty good chance, in my opinion, they do not make the playoffs.
Agreed. I think, especially with just the way, I mean, there is a possibility of, three teams coming in from the AFC North, just because like three teams, obviously the division winner and two wild cards. Even I think there's even a possibility for the whole division to make it, but it would take a lot. And with the way the AFC is laid out right now, it's wide open. So there's no real dominant team in the AFC. Obviously, you can maybe say the Titans, but the Titans haven't necessarily, they have their own problems to deal with right now, especially with not having Derrick Henry. Now they look good against the Rams, but can you necessarily say, oh, that is the team? That is we can't say the Bills anymore. The Bills just lost to the worst team in the NFL, in the Jags, or one of the worst teams. The worst team is the Detroit Lions, but I digress. I don't know. Pittsburgh's not out of it, obviously with this win, but just given what I've seen, I don't think they're necessarily in the conversation of one of the top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, but hell, I mean, with Mike Tomlin as their head coach, they could easily turn things around. I'm not going to put it.
Well, then, I mean, there's nothing to really turn around. They're winning, right? Yeah. I mean, they're not losing. So there's nothing to turn around. It's more of, with Big Ben, the way he is, his age, the way his body is now, in terms of like his arm. I just don't foresee them making a serious run in the playoffs. If they even make the playoffs, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs either. I think Big Ben is eventually going to start to wear down. We've seen it in the years prior, and I just feel that's just my feeling. I just feel like he's not going to hold up, especially with an extra week of football.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But looking at the Bears, once more, their O-line, I still feel like needs a ton of work. And it's just hurting Justin Fields more than helping. But I'm just so glad Justin Fields had a pretty decent game, and he looked pretty darn good out there.
Yes, definitely for the Bears. That's the one thing you can really take away from this game is how good Justin Fields is looking. He's looking very, very good. He made some really great throws. And there was one throw I can remember in the game. He just by a hair overshot his receiver. So he's getting there. He's starting to figure it out. And this is good news for the Bears. I really believe Justin Fields is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league at some point, especially with just how disrespected he was coming out of college. I still don't see how people thought Trey Lance was better. I still don't, or how, obviously I would take Trevor Lawrence over him, but, I just feel like, that disrespect of slipping in the draft because of hearsay stuff, it has now put a chip on his shoulder. And I really believe he's going to prove all the doubters wrong. And you saw it here. He's definitely improving week to week. And that's what we're seeing. He's not plateauing. He's going upwards. So, that's the one positive that Bears fans can take from this. The other positive is hey, there's a lot of injuries on this team, especially on the defense. And the defense held Pittsburgh or, pretty much got back into this game. And had they not had all these injuries and stuff like that, I really feel like they would have caused more of a fit for Pittsburgh. So, that's all I got for the Bears. I mean, other than that, you still have Matt Nagy as your coach, and he's a stooge for kicking a 65-yard field goal.
I'm not sure how much longer he's going to last there.
He's definitely not going to make. I mean, I don't know. It's just it just depends on how well they finish the season. If Justin Fields continues to progress, he might get another year. I don't know yet.
So it's just all going to see. But that Monday night contest, the Steelers 29 and the Bears 27. When we return, we will bring you the Hurry Up Offense. Stay tuned. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com.
Hey, sports fans. Thank you for listening to and supporting the Kirby on Sports podcast with founder and host Josh Kirby, along with lead contributor Dan Dembski. Like, subscribe, and give them a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast from. My name is Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation. Our company helps leaders build engaged and productive teams. Exclusively for listeners of the Kirby on Sports podcast, you can take an opportunity to discover your primary communication style and learn more about effective communication with others. Text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free copy of the Working From Home Communication Assessment, where you'll learn your primary communication style, how to better communicate with others not like you, and tips on working remotely based on your personal communication style. 10 minutes, tons of resources. Learn about yourself and your team. Again, text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free assessment report today. I'm Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, where we help you and your team be more engaged and productive by understanding each other better. Back to you, Josh.
All right, it's time for the Hurry Up Offense here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Kirby. The Swiss Army knife Carlos Martinez joins me, as Dan could not be here this week. Carlos, the Hurry Up Offense, are you ready?
Yep.
Let's get it going, starting with the Colts and the Jets on Thursday night. The Colts 45 and the Jets 30, and the Jets just can't seem to catch a break with their quarterback situation. Mike White with a finger, and Josh Johnson, a longtime backup in the league. It has a lot of garbage time scores, so to speak, and the Colts come out and beat them 45-30. Obviously, Josh Johnson, a lot of frustration, but a lot of frustration for the Jets this week.
Yeah, coming off that, big win against the Bengals, obviously they were kind of riding high and hoping they were going to come into Thursday night and perform well, and they just really didn't. The Colts kind of shellacked them throughout the game, and obviously they got it to a more respectable score, 45-30, but let's be honest, they just weren't really in this game.
Yeah, 100%. The Patriots over the Panthers 24-6. It seems like the Panthers were riding a really high and looking really good, and they just crash, burning down. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to think of this Panthers team anymore.
Well, also, Bill Belichick knows how to confuse the hell out of Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
It's not surprising to me now. And another thing, this was Stephon Gilmore's first game back, and it's against his former team. So not necessarily the best showing for the Panthers. And the Patriots, sneaky good team, like we've been saying, they're sneaky good, and they're starting to figure it out. And they're in contention for winning the AFC East. Buffalo does not have this locked up whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The Browns over the Bengals 41-16. For the Bengals, they looked hot to start the season, a hiccup in the road for them. And the Browns seem to be doing a lot better without OBJ.
We've already seen them last season without OBJ. They played a lot better. They almost beat the Chiefs without OBJ. They don't need OBJ. They never did. OBJ kind of takes away from, what I feel like this Browns team really is. And another thing is angry Baker Mayfield. I love it. I felt like he came out to prove a point that, hey, Odell Sr., you want to talk about the way I throw the ball and stuff here. Let me throw this deep pass to Peoples-Jones, and you can eat it. And I like angry Baker Mayfield. It's great television.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm excited to see what the Browns have in store in weeks to come. And I'm interested to see how the Bengals respond to this loss and if they can come next week with a victory. The next game, the Denver Broncos over the Dallas Cowboys. I am very surprised. I am very shocked. I did not think Denver could do this. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott still weak. I'm not really sure what the issue is, but the one thing for sure, you can't just have Zeke Elliott rushing for 51 yards.
Well, listen, we can, because normally then we have Tony Pollard. The problem was that we just couldn't get going. For the whole offense just came out very flat. I feel like we were dealing with maybe just the emotional low after such a high win against Minnesota. And then on top of that, Dak hasn't played since. Think about it. He hasn't played since we were at the Kansas City, Washington game. Think about how long ago that was. That was the last time he played. He hasn't played since then. So I feel like this was more of a bad night for the Dallas Cowboys more than it was like that the Broncos figured out how to beat us. The Broncos kept the ball for they had a majority possession time And then they rushed, like our defense couldn't stop their run game. And I feel like you need a special performances to do that. So I don't think necessarily this is a blueprint to beat the Cowboys. And there was also a lot of drop passes by CD, Amari Cooper, by the whole receiving corps. There was a lot of drop passes. And I just felt like the offense never got out of first gear. So bad night. We got our asses kicked, but I still have faith in this team. We got outcoached also, just to mention that we did get outcoached, but I still have faith in this team going in the right direction.
I mean, I just think it was just one fluke win for the Broncos there. And I mean, I'm still scared.
I don't know if it's a fluke win per se. I don't know if it's a fluke win. I mean, the Broncos are, obviously the whole story was, them trading Von Miller, but I mean, the Broncos are, they're still in it. Like they're not out of it, especially in the AFC West. And I just think the Cowboys just, like I said, they came off the high of the Minnesota win and this was the low, maybe it was just a lot. And then obviously with Dak coming back, he just didn't look like himself. He looked rusty and, he just needs to get back in the flow of it again and he'll be all right.
I will make one more point. The Stars and Stripes the red, white, and blue stripes did look pretty cool.
Yeah, no, get rid of them. Never do the red stripe again.
yeah, get rid of them because it's
the curse of the red stripe. It's like our navy blue jerseys. Whenever we wear them, I get nervous.
The next game, Josh Allen tears it up. And no, I'm not talking about the Bills quarterback, Josh Allen. I'm talking about the Jaguars, Josh Allen. In a 9-6 upset, the Jags over the Bills. And Josh Allen did a lot of connecting with Josh Allen.
Yes, he did. But yeah, it's like, again, it's like Dan has been saying, the AFC is wide open. And for the Bills, what I've been seeing a lot is, breaking down who they've beaten lately, and who they've beaten lately hasn't necessarily been great. They beat Miami twice. They obviously beat Kansas City, but we know Kansas City isn't Kansas City right now. We'll obviously get into them a little later on. And then aside from that, who else have they beaten? I can't even necessarily think of it off the top of my head. They beat the Dolphins twice, in which the first one they were kind of in control of. Last week they weren't. It was 3-3 for the longest time, and then their offense finally woke up. They beat the Texans and they beat Washington. Those are the 5 teams they've beaten. So other than that, it just wasn't. They just haven't really beaten anybody necessarily top level. So they got a lot to figure out in Buffalo. And for Jacksonville, big win for Jacksonville. Even though this was a very low scoring game, it's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, any way you look at it, it's a big confidence builder for a rookie quarterback in Trevor Lawrence and a brand new head coach in Urban Meyer. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Jacksonville Jaguars respond after this 9-6 victory over the Bills.
Or better yet, how the Bills are going to respond to this.
Yeah, that is true as well. Yeah. That is true. The Dolphins 17, the Texans 9.
Who cares?
I don't really care.
Who cares?
Young Wei Koo comes in clutch, beating the New Orleans Saints 27-25, and obviously Trevor Siemian starting for the Saints once again, almost 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Siemian looked good.
He does.
Siemian looked good. But I mean, I think Atlanta is gonna sneak into the playoffs. I really do. I think New Orleans is going to be one of the playoff teams ultimately, because I think Siemian is going to be serviceable. But I think Atlanta is going to be a sneaky playoff team. Now, do I think they're great? No, I think defensively they have a lot of issues. I think offensively, Matt Ryan looked pretty good in this game. But they almost lost it the way the Atlanta Falcons are known to lose leads, obviously. We don't have to keep bringing up their darkest moment in their history where, when a goat ruined it all for them. But yeah, I mean, what else is there to say about this? It was an entertaining game. But obviously Matt Ryan did what he needed to do to win it.
Absolutely. The Giants over the Raiders 23-16. Is this a fluke for the Giants, or are they turning things around here? Because I can't really tell right now.
I don't know. I think I don't know if I want to say the Giants played a good game. I still don't believe in the Giants. They're not a good team.
Absolutely.
But I will also say that maybe, the Raiders have dealt with a lot this season, obviously with John Gruden, all that incident, and then now with this Henry Ruggs situation, which of course is very tragic and sad. We talked about it last week. I feel like things are starting to kind of catch up to them. We'll see how they respond next week, but I think this was just too emotional of a week for them to really focus on this game when everything has been when everything crashed. And not on top of that, they also had to cut their other first round draft pick that they drafted that same year. The defensive back, I can't remember his name, for threatening a woman on, I think, Instagram with a video of him holding a gun. It's just been dismay there in Vegas, and we'll see how they respond obviously this coming week, but it was definitely tough for them to do it this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say a little bit on this next game, the Chargers versus the Eagles, 27-24. I find it just very ironic that Dustin Hopkins, a former Washington kicker, kicks the game winner. I mean,
because he actually cares. He cares in LA. He didn't care in Washington. Why would you care when you play for Washington? You're not playing for anything.
I guess. Whereas,
so. In LA, you're actually playing for something. I mean, I'll put it. The funny thing that I've heard coming out of this game is, Sirianni's walking to the locker room at the end of the game, and a fan throws him a bouquet of flowers because of the comment that he made about how this team is a flower, like the roots are growing underneath right now. They're building the foundation, and soon they're going to come up. Sirianni's a freaking doofus. Like, get him out of here. Get him out of here. I would never play for a man like that.
Yeah. How about another snooze fest? The Chiefs over the Packers, 13-7.
Listen, I mean, the more interesting thing was this whole thing, the stuff happening around the game, of course, with the whole Aaron Rodgers stuff, and and of course, a lot of people tuned in to see how the Packers would play without Aaron Rodgers and the future with Jordan Love. Jordan Love did not look good. He didn't. And, no. But neither, I mean, I think the Chiefs really missed an opportunity here to really get going. Their offense just, man, I don't know what it is. Like, Patrick Mahomes is just having a bad season.
I don't think the Chiefs are the Chiefs we've used to see.
I think
to seeing.
I think they're still there. It's just they're not waking up. Mm-hmm. It feels like there's just a lot going on with the team. We don't know what's going on with Patrick Mahomes. We don't know if he's hurt, if it's personal stuff going on around him. I hope it's not fatherhood. I would imagine fatherhood would motivate him more and not really like make him try to figure out what's going on, try to balance things out of fatherhood and being, a top level quarterback. I don't think it's that. I don't. But I've heard that theory out there that maybe fatherhood is he's trying to figure that whole thing out with also still being an elite talent. Patrick Mahomes is going to figure it out. He's too talented to not figure it out. It's just things are not going their way right now. But yet they're still above 500. They're still in the race. They're still in play to win the division. So they just gotta get going. They just gotta get going, and they gotta get a running game. They gotta get other weapons aside from Tyreek and Travis Kelce, because they can't really rely on them right now because they're being shut down. So who knows?
I will tell you one crazy thing about this game, Carlos, and you might find this surprising too, where Jordan Love's mom was sitting.
I really could care less about where you put that in the group message. I honestly could care less.
I mean, the nosebleeds.
Tragic. It was probably last minute. They just didn't have seats for them.
Tragic indeed. 13-7 there. The Cardinals with Colt McCoy, 31-17 over the 49ers. Colt McCoy, 249 yards and a touchdown for the former Texas QB.
What is Kyle Shanahan doing? Who else can you blame for this? I mean, the Cardinals didn't have Kyler Murray. They didn't have DeAndre Hopkins. They didn't have AJ Green. They lost another weapon at some point in the game. I can't remember who. Was it Edmonds?
I think so.
I think it was Edmonds that they lost. And then, James Conner goes crazy. and Colt McCoy leads them to a victory. What you can't blame the injuries. You can't blame the fact that they're young, it's young players around. Like, what are they doing in San Francisco? This was a team 2 years ago that was in the Super Bowl with Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan, and they had one of the most dominant defenses we've seen. Not one of the most, but a pretty good defense, right? Where has that gone? Obviously, last year they were decimated by injuries, and then obviously they weren't allowed to play in their home stadium, and ironically they had to play in Arizona Stadium, who of course they just lost to. And then this year it just feels like what are you like? You have all these pieces back, and of course they are still dealing with some injuries, but what's the grand plan here? I don't know. Good win by Arizona, I guess. Now that they're back at the top seed, with this win.
Even with Colt McCoy, who hasn't played for quite a while. And I'll say this, I'll be one of the first to say, I thought at the beginning of the season the Cardinals would not do well, and Cliff Kingsbury.
We all did.
Yeah, would be the first to go. But he has proven all of us wrong, and it's just crazy to see it. An 8-1 Cardinals team.
Well, here's my fear. My last point. Here's my fear with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray can't stay healthy. He's hurt. He's like I said, he's not a big guy. He's my size. I'm 5'9". He's 5'9". It's like me playing quarterback back there. And I know I would not be able to take all those hits that these quarterbacks have to take sometimes. And I worry that he cannot stay healthy. And that ultimately when it's going to matter, he's not going to be healthy. So I don't necessarily fully trust the Cardinals right now. I still think they are not a team that I fear the way I fear like a Tampa Bay, the way I fear even LA, even though they just got shellacked, I don't fear, or Green Bay. Like, I don't fear Arizona the way I fear those other three teams.
All right, the last game on the hurry up offense, the Titans come into LA and beat the Rams 28-16. What an impressive matchup this was. I mean, the Titans got to Matthew Stafford all night long. It seemed like Matthew Stafford threw 2 terrible interceptions. And I mean,
he did his best Carson Wentz impression.
Seriously, turnovers were the factor in this game 100%.
Turnovers and just, I don't know, Matthew Stafford has these types of games every now and again. We saw him happen in Detroit a lot. But of course, also he didn't have the same talent that he has here in LA. He's now no longer the favorite to win the MVP with that performance. Now Tom Brady's the favorite to win it, followed by Lamar Jackson. For Tennessee, this was a big game for them, especially coming off the Derrick Henry injury. It shows they can win without him. Obviously, Adrian Peterson didn't necessarily have the biggest game. He did score a touchdown, and you obviously are losing your mind over that because you want to see him break Walter Payton's record. I could care less about that. But,
passing him for number 11 on all-time touchdowns.
Oh, so he's not going to be the all-time leader.
Yeah, correct. But still, it's a pretty big accomplishment.
Once again, I'm not impressed.
I've been a big fan of AP for quite a while.
I could care less, honestly. Good for him for still playing in the league, but he's not going to necessarily cover Derrick Henry's. Obviously nobody could cover what Derrick Henry.
I'm not saying that. I'm just glad he's back in the league.
But I could care less. He's old. He's not the same Adrian Peterson as he was like when he came back and had that 2,000-yard season.
Yeah, that's true as well. So that is the hurry up offense, and we will wrap things up for you right after this.
Hey there, this is Mark Francis of Icon Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs in the Winchester surrounding area, including West Virginia, give me a call. I've got extensive experience, been in the business for almost 20 years, and would love to help you out. Track me down at Icon Real Estate, iconsells.com, or even give me a call, 540-247-1527. Again, Icon Sells, ICONSELLS.com, and I would love to chat with you and help you out. Give me a call.
All right, it's Josh and Carlos back with you. What are we looking out for this week, Carlos?
Well, the first thing I'm looking out for this week is not football, it's football. We have the biggest game of World Cup qualifying coming up, USA versus Mexico, the trilogy, the grudge match. We've beaten them twice this summer. Now we get to play for the actual thing where it's World Cup qualifying, where everything where this is where it all matters. All those trophies we won don't matter. This is where it matters. That's what I'm most excited to watch for Friday night on ESPN2. I think the game starts at 9:00, so I will be watching that. But in terms of actual football, I want to see how Dallas responds. I want to see how we respond against Atlanta. Obviously, Atlanta's a scrappy team. But I want to see that, and obviously, I think that's all I'm really looking forward to.
I have an interesting one, and this could go very south very quickly, Carlos. So don't be surprised. But a rematch of the NFC wild card between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington football team,
Which you will be at.
Yes, it's going to be great to see Brady, but still to see how Heineke, if he's hungry and wants to beat this Buccaneers team. It probably will not happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
I mean,
and if it happens, good for Washington, but I just don't see it happening. I think Tampa Bay has too many weapons. I just think ultimately where Washington was at the is not where they're at now, where they were during the wild card game last year. They're not that same team. And the other things, they had Alex Smith, who led them to that position. It wasn't Taylor Heineke who led them there. Taylor Heineke just played in that game, and he had nothing to lose. So that's why I just don't feel like it's going to go the way, some people are trying to make, the narrative be like, oh, this is his revenge game. Like, no, it's not.
In one more game, I have the Browns versus the Patriots. I think
that will be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. The Patriots, as you said, Carlos, is sneaky, and the Browns without Odell Beckham, I'm interested to see how that game goes as well.
Agreed.
Short and sweet episode for you all this week. Carlos, any last words?
Go USA.
So let me ask you something about that. USA versus Mexico. Whoever wins gets into the World Cup?
No. So like I said, World Cup qualifying, it's an octagonal, whatever. It's an octagon basically. So it's 8 teams. You play round robin style. So we play every team twice, home and away. This is the first game against Mexico for the World Cup qualifying process. So we play them now, and then we're going to play them again in March in Mexico. But this is big because winner gets 3 points, and it just helps with your position. And only the top 3 automatically qualify for World Cup qualifying. And then the 4th team goes to a playoff with another country to get into the World Cup. And right now, USA and Mexico are 1 and 2 in the table. And obviously when USA Mexico plays, it's a big deal. So, this is the rivalry of this region. So I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
Get your popcorn ready, Carlos. It's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be, this past weekend was way more busy than this weekend's going to be, but especially sports wise. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that about wraps it up for another edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Thanks to Patrick Van Kemper with Trumbull Insurance and the rest of our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. Check out the Kirby on Sports podcast, anything and everything at kirbyonsports.com. Until the next time you hear us, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.